What's up? Merry Christmas. Some inspiration hit today. It's December 25th, 2024, and I figured I would just get it out there because I learned recently that inspiration is perishable. It disappears when you don't capture it. So the idea for today's video is that there are three main skills, or games as I like to call them, that you should look to master, accomplish in your 20s, okay? And the idea is not necessarily that like in your 20s you have to get this done, but the idea is that in your 20s or really any decade of life, you can master these core areas of life. It's not as hard as people think it is. Okay, and the answer is you may have already heard this before, but it's health, wealth, and relationships. Okay, these are the three core skill sets and games in life that you must play. So, real quick, I want to make a differentiation here in that there are certain games in life that you must play, and there are certain games in life that you can play if you want to, right? So when we're little, when we're kids, we usually play the games that we want to, right? Like for me, that was like basketball, learning guitar, Pokemon. These are the games that I had a lot of fun playing, right? But then when I became an adult at 22, there became games that I had to play, right? Like one is wealth, like money, finances. If I don't have finances, well, I'm fucked, right? I don't have a means of survival, right? Health and fitness, right? If I don't take care of my body, well, I have no home to live in. If I end up being fat and slow and lethargic and sick all the time, well, I can't do shit with my life. And relationships, right? During your 20s, maybe, 30s, this is the time when people, are actively out there building romantic relationships, getting into that phase of later forming a family if that's, your thing. But that is a perishable time period. You don't, once you get to your 40s, 50s, that period has kind of passed, right, for doing this romance thing, right? So these are things that kind of must be done during this period. And for me right now, I'm 29. I just turned 29. Between the ages of 22, graduating college, and 29, these three things, health, wealth, and relationships, have been the core disciplines of my life. I really kind of almost filtered out everything else and only worked on these three things, right? And now I'm at a level where I have a very solid baseline and foundation for all three of these things that, not that they're just coasting, but they're good enough at baseline, at default, that like I can't really go wrong anymore. I can only get really exponentially good, but there's not much room to fall anymore. Like I just can't, royally screw up my life in any one of these three areas because the foundation has been solidly built. Okay, so returning to the idea that at first we play the games that we want to because ideally, hopefully, our parents, our caretakers took care of us. We didn't have to worry about health, wealth, or relationships. But then we transition to a phase where we become independent of our parents, and now we have to focus on these three things. And what occurred to me today is that because I've built a pretty strong baseline in all three of these things, I can actually somewhat transition back to now investing time and energy into the games that I used to love to play and other games that I want to take on. One of my goals for 2025 is to return to my childhood a bit, right? Start doing the things that I used to love doing, like Pokemon, basketball, playing electric guitar, learning new songs. There's other random things that I enjoy, going to concerts, playing outdoor sports, things like that. But things that are outside of the core disciplines that I enjoy doing that are fun games, but they're not necessary. Like if I don't play Pokemon, I won't die. But if I don't take care of my health, I will die. If I don't, take care of my money, I will die or live on the streets. And if I don't take care of my relationships, well, I will, die an emotional death, let's say, right? So that being said, describing sort of the different phases, I'll go ahead and just talk about how I've gone about mastering or at least creating a strong foundation in all three of these areas. Okay. So for me, I started out with dating. That was like my most biggest pain point in early adulthood when I was like 21, 22. So relationships was the part that was hurting me the most. So that's where I started. That's when I started learning game. That's when I started, developing social skills, going out, meeting women, becoming more confident, working on myself, my mindset, my self-esteem, all of that. And that was a brutal journey, extremely fun, brutal, because it was my first sort of self-development hero's journey where I had to master myself. I had to master consistency, discipline, mindset, changing my beliefs, going outside of my comfort zone, right? Finding mentors. Like there were so many little skills that I needed to learn in order to master this area of my life. Basically like on top of just dating and relationships, I had to learn the skill of learning, the skill of self-development, the skill of growing. All right, so that took me like, let's say, 5 years more or less, from 22 to 27. Those 5 years, I really like went all in on that skill set. And now I'm in a place where I'm in an amazing relationship that I see lasting as a lifelong partnership. The foundations of this relationship are so strong, and I have the baseline skill sets to keep it healthy and strong. And I still continue to invest in this relationship, right? I still get mentoring on how to be a man in this relationship, how to grow it, how to grow spiritually, emotionally, in all these different ways to make sure the relationship continues growing and being nourished and evolving into what it's capable of. I'm not letting it just die down by any means, right? But most of the foundational work has been done, right? Now, during these 5 years, I was also pretty consistent with my fitness, right? So hitting the gym, which also required, mindset changes, discipline, consistency, habit formation, all these things, right? But I've gotten to the point where my physique is very good, right? Like it's better than I would say 95, even 98, 99% of people. And for me, a lot of that was just becoming a more attractive man, like physically looking more attractive. But also it's become sort of a mental game where I love challenging my mind every single session at the gym. And it trains me to look forward to challenges, to embrace challenges, right? And to embrace things that are difficult that make me grow. So it's like a physical way of a physical model of showing growth, whereas in other ways in life, when you grow, you don't necessarily see it physically. You see it maybe mentally, spiritually, XYZ, but I really like this physical way because it serves as a representation for the other ways, so to speak. And yeah, in the last few years, I've also been very cognizant of certain things like my diet. I've figured out my ideal diet that makes me feel good, gives me the most energy, keeps my skin clear and healthy. I figured out my sleep routine. Like I know exactly how I sleep and how I can wake up feeling the most refreshed possible every single day. I understand sort of my information diet, right? Books, journaling, meditating, things that keep me emotionally healthy. That's also part of health. I'm currently working on some things in physical therapy to keep my joints and muscles healthy. That's a new thing for me. Right, next year, one of the things I want to work on is cardio, so I keep my heart healthy, so I can live a long and healthy life. So I'm constantly adding on new things into my sort of health mastery to have my health most in tune as possible. But the baseline has been set very, very good already. And then in the last like 3 years, exactly 3 years actually, is when I started sort of the money game, when I started my own business, when I started understanding and tackling this world of, I would call it trade, right? It's a game of trade. It's a game of, I have this, you have that, let's make an exchange. Most of the time it's I have this, you have money, let's make an exchange. That is a game that most people don't recognize that they're playing all the time. They don't want to be in this game, they don't like this game, they don't know how to play this game, and they suffer because they don't know how to play this game. That's still a game that I'm working on mastering. But the good news is I've set a pretty solid foundation. Like 3 years into business, all 3 years I've made 6 figures. personal income, right? So that's pretty good. Like for me, that's a very solid foundation. And right now I'm working on, getting that to 7 figures, right? With the company, myself, I'll probably pocket a couple 100,000, right? Which pretty significantly increases your sort of lifestyle abilities and your ability to make a contribution and impact and to grow your business and to invest in yourself and stuff like that. But up to this point, I've had a pretty, minimal lifestyle while still doing all the things that I want to, keeping the necessary things very low, like cost of living, while heavily investing in myself to become more skilled and a better man and have more resources, right, that work for me. So I guess to put all of this in perspective, in the course of 7 years, from 22 to 29, I was able to more or less build a very solid foundation for my relationships, my health, and my wealth. All three of those in just 7 years. It's not a long time. It's really not a long time. People think that this takes a lifetime. Really, like if you commit your 20s to doing this, or your 30s, or whatever age you are, really, because you have to. These are 3 games that you have to play. You cannot escape these 3 games. You must master them. You must master them. So for me, my 20s was all about doing these things really, really well. My 30s is going to be about exploding them. Honestly, health is going to be about longevity, making sure I live as long and healthy as possible, relationships, building my family, my ideal family. Wealth is going to be about exploding my personal wealth plus impact on this world, legacy, humanity, all of that stuff, right? It's gonna be a massive decade for me of personal growth. And a quick sort of visual is that these things all work on an exponential curve. So, the results kind of all come at the tail end. Like it goes slow and then it goes shooting up, right? So when you're starting, like when I started my sort of dating relationships journey, it was slow, man. It was a slow grind. I was getting no attention or attraction from women. And then boom, it started going up towards the tail end and boom, right? Things all sort of took off at once. And then same thing with fitness, right? You really don't see a lot of results until you start, staying consistent for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then boosh, all of a sudden you start, looking the part. With money as well, right? Like at first it's just a brutal grind until you start seeing some traction. You learn enough marketing, enough sales, enough of the other stuff to, start seeing the money actually coming in. And the crazy part is, because I've already sort of hit that curve where it's starting to go exponential, it only gets more exponential from here. The results only get more exponential from here. So it actually is going to get easier for me in my 30s to get even way more results than I did in my 20s, which is mind-blowing to think about, because I'm looking forward to a very long life filled with all 3 of these things, continually compounding and exponentially growing. Like there's no reality in which I stop growing any of these 3 things. So by the time, I'm very old, it's just going to be an insane, awesome life, right? So a question that you might have now is, depending on where you are, what order should I work on these and how should I go about working on them? And I have a generic answer and a specific answer. So my generic answer is, if it was a blank slate and everybody was equal, I would work on health first, then money, then relationships, right? So health would be like your fitness, right? Getting big, strong, looking good, but also your cardio, your sleep, your diet, your water, your all, and mental health, right? Understanding your basically, health is a great place to basically master your body and in the process master your mind, because you must master your mind in order to master any of these 3 areas, okay? So health is sort of the most basic one to master, I think, right? And if you master your health, then you translate that over to money. Well, now you have control over your mind. Now you know how your mind works. Now you know how to show up consistently, how to have discipline, how to do the same thing day in, day out and continually get better each time. And that's going to be massive for your ability to grow in wealth, in money, in business, right? You need that foundation of consistency and knowing how to ask for help, things like that. And then if you translate that into relationships, it's really helpful when you have a fit body and some money to, when it comes to getting girls. You're going to need to learn some social skills, specifically in the arena of romance. But it's nothing crazy compared to if you were to start from scratch without, any sort of fitness, without any sort of money in your pocket. That's, a lot harder, right? So that would be the generic order. However, the order that I took was not that. The order I took was which area is the most painful. And for me, that was dating. It just hurt. So I just took care of that first. I know people who have jumped into business first because that's the most painful thing for them. Or maybe they're fat or out of shape or whatever, and they just want to get fit, and that's their most important thing to start with first. So really, honestly, I would say start with the thing that hurts the most and stack the other two on top. And then realize that it's really not that hard. It doesn't take that long. If you get these three things right, everything in your life will fall into place. That's like the big three things that sort of take care of everything, right? Right now, I'm starting to allow myself time, energy, and attention to sort of play some other games on the side that are not these three main things. These three main things are have to plays. You have to play these games because you can't escape them. Everybody participates in these games, whether you like it or not. The only difference is whether you suck or whether you're great. And if you're great, your life is awesome. If you suck, your life sucks. Let's just be honest, right? Now that I have these three things at a baseline, I'm starting to sort of reintroduce other little games in my life, playing some Nintendo, playing basketball, playing guitar, like things that I really used to love doing so much as a child. I think a big mistake that some people make is that they get overly obsessed with these three games and they go into them super mode and grind for years and years and years and years on end, and never end up sort of bringing in other areas of their life, never allowing themselves to sort of enjoy other things that they do enjoy. Not that you shouldn't enjoy these three areas of life. I enjoy the shit out of all three of these things. They're some of the funnest games that I play. But I also want to play some of these other sort of side games. Now, the big mistake that most people make is that they spend their entire life playing side games like, I don't know, League of Legends or just video games in general, smoking and drinking with their friends and partying on the weekends. The dumb things that people do, scrolling on social media, comparing themselves to other people, just the habits that don't serve them. Those are the main games for most people. And then side games are like taking care of their health. Like I'll do that like once in a while. And, my relationships, I'm not that good with women, but I'll just kind of put that off for a long time. And, my money situation is always up and down and this and that. But, I'll wait till I'm 45 to sort of take care of that. That's where most people are, and that's how you get fucked. So, stated succinctly, there's three games in life that we must play: health, wealth, and relationships. And you want to master these at a baseline level as soon as possible because they're going to make your life very, very good. And you got to find a way to enjoy them, okay? And you got to find a way to get good at them. And it doesn't take that long, okay? It really takes under a decade. And from there, feel free to introduce other games that you also enjoy and just add to the spice of life. But don't be one of the people that only participates in these side games, drinking, video games, sleeping in, partying, right? And then you neglect the things that actually matter in this life: health, wealth, and relationships, until they're too long, because these three things have a sort of a perishable window, right? If you don't master these three things sort of in time, by the time, let's say you're 35, 40, like a lot of things start getting a lot harder. Finding a partner gets a little bit harder. Your health, if you fuck your health for 40 years, getting it back into shape is going to be really hard. And your money, like if your money mindset gets worse and worse and worse for 40 years, and then you try to turn it around and become a millionaire, like good fucking luck, right? So you want to optimally, hopefully, master these three things in your 20s, if not in your 30s, so that you set yourself up for a very good life that goes exponentially better, for your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and onwards, right? So that concludes the idea for today's video. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas 2024. It's been an amazing year. Lots of personal growth for me, hopefully for you as well. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed sharing this, idea, this concept today with you. And hopefully you have some, great ideas, things to think about. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for any time a new concept comes into my reality, and I'm gonna share it with you. So hopefully you can benefit from that. So that being said, Merry Christmas. Have a great day.